Welcome, listeners, to the Deep Dive.
Great to be here.
Today, we're unpacking a really fascinating collection of source material. It's all related to Godrej Agrovet Ltd, or GAVL, as we'll probably call it.
Yep, GAVL.
And you've given us quite a stack of documents here covering, well, pretty much everything from their financials, sustainability efforts.
Right, through to corporate governance, how they deal with shareholders, the lot.
Exactly. So our mission today really is to pull out the most important nuggets of knowledge from all this material.
Kind of give you a shortcut to getting up to speed on GAVL.
Yeah, what they do, their impact on the Indian economy, and maybe where they're heading.
And what's really compelling, I think, is how these different pieces, they might seem separate at first glance, but they actually weave together. They paint this really comprehensive picture of a company that's deeply, deeply embedded in India's whole agricultural scene.
Right.
We'll try and connect those dots for you. Highlight not just what GAVL is doing, but, why it actually matters.
Okay, sounds good. Let's unpack this and dive into GAVL's world.
Let's do it.
So let's maybe start with the big picture. India's economy, the sources highlight pretty robust real GDP growth, right? 6.5% predicted for FY25.
Yeah, fiscal year ending 2025. And agriculture and services are really driving that significantly.
And here's where it gets really interesting for GAVL, I suppose. Agriculture isn't just, a sector, it's a pillar. It provides income for, 46% of India's population?
Almost half the population. That's huge.
Oh.
And it underlines why the government's commitment is so strong here.
Right, those initiatives you mentioned.
Yeah, things like the Prime Minister Dhan Dhanya Krishi Yojana, the Rural Prosperity and Resilience Program.
Yeah.
They're all designed to, boost productivity, diversify crops.
Improve irrigation.
Exactly. Create rural opportunities, especially focusing on women and small farmers. So the big question is, how does a company like GAVL fit into this whole national economic engine?
Well, their role seems pretty significant based on these documents. They operate all across India, plants in loads of states.
Right.
And in those key segments, animal feed, crop protection, vegetable oils, aquafeed.
So a diverse portfolio.
Very diverse. Like their animal feed plants, they stretch from Gujarat way down to Tamil Nadu. And vegetable oil operations are up in Mizoram, down in Goa. It's a real pan-India footprint.
Okay, so geographically spread out. And how are those different segments actually performing? The sources must touch on that.
They do, yeah. It's a bit varied, but mostly positive. The animal feed business, for example, saw a really notable jump, 26% growth in segment margins in FY24-25.
26% margin growth. Wow.
Yeah.
So making significantly more profit on each sale.
Exactly. And interestingly, that was even though their sales volumes were flat.
Oh, so how did they manage that?
Seems like it was driven by favorable commodity positions, maybe buying inputs smartly and some serious cost optimization.
Okay, so strong internal management then. Good control over costs.
Definitely suggests that. And then you look at the crop protection business. The sources literally describe stellar performance in FY24-25.
Stellar. Even with the agrochemical market being generally challenging.
Yeah, despite that wider market difficulty, their segment margins hit 40%.
40.
Yep, a 9% increase year on year. And that seems primarily down to their own in-house herbicides, the hit weed range.
Ah, so in-house innovation paying off.
Yeah.
That makes sense. What about vegetable oils?
Also strong. Robust volumes, better operational efficiencies led to strong profit growth there too.
Okay.
Boosted by higher prices they got for crude palm oil and palm kernel oil. And get this, a 52% year-on-year increase in fresh fruit bunch arrivals. That's the raw material.
52% increase in supply coming in? That's massive. And wasn't there something about their dairy subsidiary?
Oh, yeah, Creamline Dairy Products. It's now wholly owned by GAVL, saw a huge profit jump, 160% year-on-year.
Okay, 160%. So across the board, it sounds like GAVL isn't just benefiting from India's agricultural growth, but they're actively contributing and performing really well within it.
Yeah, that's the picture I get. But beyond just the numbers, something else really stands out from these materials.
What's that?
Their commitment to sustainability. It seems really deep-rooted. They have this whole good and green vision.
Ah, yes, good and green. Aiming for a more inclusive and environmentally sustainable future. That rings a bell.
Exactly. And it's not just talk, is it? The progress seems quite concrete.
It really does. I mean, getting included for the second year running in the A list, that's the leadership band of the CDP.
The Climate Disclosure Project, right?
Yeah, exactly. For climate change, water security, and forests, specifically palm oil disclosure. And their scores are actually ahead of the global averages.
Which is pretty impressive.
It really is. So it makes you ask, okay, what specific actions are actually driving this recognition? What are they doing?
Well, their 2025 sustainability goals are ambitious, but they seem to be hitting them. They're already meeting 80% of their energy needs from clean, renewable sources.
80% already. Wow. And the target's 90%.
Yeah, so well on their way. And this one really caught my eye. They've maintained their status as a water-positive company.
Water positive, meaning they conserve more than they use.
Way more. They conserve 16 times more water than they consume.
16 times.
You're like,
That's incredible. That's a huge impact, especially in a country like India with water stress issues.
absolutely. It's a massive positive impact.
And this commitment, it extends to greenhouse gas emissions too, right? GHG?
It does. They've submitted a reduction roadmap, and it's aligned with that Science-Based Targets Initiative, the SBTI.
The well below 2C scenario, yeah.
Yeah.
That's the standard.
Right. So they're committed to cutting Scope 1 and 2 emissions, that's their direct operational and energy emissions, by 37.5%. And Scope 3, the indirect ones, across the value chain by 16%. All by FY23, 34, 35.
Okay, so specific measurable targets. And they're aiming for net zero in Scope 1 and 2 by FY35.
That's the plan. It shows a pretty holistic long-term view.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So what are some of the kind of cool initiatives helping them get there? What's happening on the ground?
Well, one thing mentioned was Women in Agriculture Summit 2025. Sounds like they empowered over 20,000 women, farmers, students, professionals through training programs.
20,000 women. That's significant social impact alongside the environmental focus.
Yeah, and they even worked with IM Ahmedabad on a report about women in agribusiness, looking at the challenges and opportunities.
Interesting. Blending the social and environmental. What else? Anything techie?
Actually, yes. Another interesting detail was their use of drones.
Drones. For what?
In the oil palm business. For health monitoring across plantations down in Andhra Pradesh.
Ah, okay. So using tech for better, maybe more sustainable plantation management. That fits.
Yeah, it highlights that blend of innovation and sustainability. Plus, they mention operational excellence projects focusing on ESG integration.
Right, embedding environment, social governance factors.
And ETP optimization, improving their effluent treatment plants.
Handling wastewater better. Makes sense.
And switching to cleaner fuels. So, lots of practical stuff.
It sounds like it.
Yeah.
And what about their CSR, corporate social responsibility?
Pretty active there, too. Community development, supporting schools, healthcare facilities. They spent over 682 lakh rupees on CSR activities in FY 24-25.
Okay, so a significant investment there too. It really does sound like a very holistic approach to their impact, both environmental and social.
Yeah, it really does. Okay, maybe we should shift gears a bit.
Sure. Where to next? Governance.
Yeah, let's look at how GAVL actually runs the show. Corporate governance, how they interact with their shareholders.
Right. Always important. What did the sources say about their board structure?
It seems quite structured. As of March 31st, 2025, they had 13 members on the board.
13. Okay.
Mostly non-executive, 11 of them, and just 2 executive directors.
Okay, a majority of non-execs, which is generally seen as good practice for oversight. So how do they ensure good governance and actually get shareholders involved?
Well, the sources point to a few things. Their big annual general meeting, the AGM, the 34th one, was held virtually, August 6th, 2025.
Virtual AGM, becoming more common.
Yeah, and they really seem to push electronic voting. Even if you attended the virtual meeting, if you hadn't voted remotely beforehand, you could still vote electronically during it.
Ah, so trying to maximize participation. And that shows a push for accessibility, doesn't it?
It does seem like it. They use NSDL for the e-voting platform. And for convenience, if you hold shares in a DMAT account,
The digital accounts, yeah.
you could apparently cast your vote using a single login. Makes it simpler.
Okay.
And if you had questions for the AGM, you could email them in advance.
Right, so multiple channels for engagement makes sense. What about the financial side for shareholders, dividends, things like that?
Yeah, key detail there.
Yeah.
Dividends paid out after April 1st, 2020 are taxable for the shareholders themselves.
Okay, so the tax liability shifted to the shareholder.
Right. And GNDL deducts the tax at source, the TDS.
Standard practice now. Anything else on dividends? Unclaimed ones, maybe?
Yes, they seem quite proactive about communicating on unclaimed dividends. They notify shareholders that if a dividend goes unpaid for 7 straight years,
7 years.
like the one from fiscal year 2017-18, which hits that mark on September 14th, 2025, then the underlying shares get transferred to the IEPF.
Ah, the Investor Education and Protection Fund.
Right?
So shareholders need to be vigilant about claiming those dividends, or they risk losing the shares to that government fund.
Exactly. Good to be aware of. They even have an online dispute resolution portal, mentions smarttokenmiser.in, for any grievances in the securities market.
Okay, another mechanism for addressing issues. Seems like they're providing pathways.
Yeah. What about risk management? Did the sources touch on that? That's key for governance.
They did. It sounds pretty robust. The company apparently has a policy to continuously monitor risks, business risks, operational risks.
Commodity prices,
Yeah,
Forex, things like that.
exactly, including commodity price and foreign exchange risks. And they actually use forward exchange contracts to hedge that currency risk.
Okay, locking in exchange rates.
Right. But notably, the sources say they don't use derivatives for speculative purposes.
Ah, so just hedging, not betting on currency movements. That suggests a more conservative approach to financial risk.
That's how I read it, too. What about internal stuff? Employee welfare controls?
Yep, touched on that too. They have a formal policy on prevention of sexual harassment at workplace?
Good, with internal complaints committees.
Yes, exactly. And the numbers reported show, well, some activity. In FY24-25, there were 3 complaints filed, and all 3 were resolved within the year.
Okay, resolves. How does that compare?
The previous year, FY23-24, also had 3 complaints, but 1 was still pending at the year end. So perhaps an improvement in resolution time, or just the nature of the cases. Either way, it suggests a system is functioning at least.
Right, the system is there and addressing issues. What about internal financial controls? That's always a big one for auditors.
It is, and there's a slight nuance here. While the company stated their controls are adequate, operative, and adequate,
Which sounds positive?
the auditor's report did flag one specific issue. In one subsidiary company, the audit trail feature in their accounting software wasn't enabled or reported for a certain period.
Ah, the audit trail. So tracking who made what changes in the accounting system, that's usually quite important for control.
Exactly. So while the overall assessment was adequate, this specific point was noted. It kind of highlights the complexities, doesn't it? Maintaining perfectly robust systems across every single part of a large, diverse company like GAVL.
It certainly does. It's an ongoing challenge for any big organization. Perfection is hard to achieve, but identifying and reporting these things is part of the process.
True. So wrapping this all up, what does this mean for you, the listener? We've taken a pretty deep dive into Godrej Agrovet,
We certainly have.
and it reveals a company that's, well, clearly a significant player in India's agricultural sector, which is booming.
Definitely a major player. But also, as we saw, quite focused on being a leader in sustainable practices.
Yeah, that really came through from their diverse businesses and, pretty impressive financial performance in some areas,
Right, like crop protection and dairy.
to those really cutting-edge green initiatives. Drone monitoring, conserving huge amounts of water, empowering women in agriculture. It paints a picture of a very modern agribusiness.
And we've seen how they navigate, the complex financial side, how they engage with shareholders, address social responsibilities, even down to the nitty-gritty of accounting controls and audit trails.
Yeah.
The sources seem to show this commitment to, well, transparency and trying to continuously improve. It feels like they're aiming not just to grow, but to grow responsibly.
So what stands out most to you listening? Maybe it's that 16 times more water conserved figure. That's pretty memorable.
It is sticky, isn't it?
Mhm.
Or maybe it's that blend of traditional agriculture with high-tech solutions, like the drones we mentioned.
Or perhaps just the solid approach to risk management and governance. Lots to chew on.
There really is.
Yeah.
And building on that, it kind of makes you wonder, doesn't it? As technology keeps evolving at this pace, how might GAVL and, other companies like them, how might they leverage innovation even further to really deepen that commitment to sustainability?
And maybe even transform the future of agriculture, not just in India, but maybe globally.
Exactly. Could they really push the boundaries of what sustainable agriculture looks like on a global scale? It's a fascinating thought.
It is indeed something for you to keep exploring. Until next time, keep digging deeper into the topics that intrigue you.